Alright, hello everybody. This is Frank Gamer. Once again, this is Voice Chat, a pseudo-intellectual conversation. My guest today is Paul, also known as Super Positive.
Hello, everybody.
Now, you recently did a video, or well, not recently. I was
Recently, it's very loose. Very loosely say that word.
what was it, like two or 3 months ago? I would say.
I can't recall, to be entirely honest with you. I could check my video manager right now and see that was in September. So quite
Six
a.
6 months ago. Wow, time really flies.
It really does.
Gosh, I have known you for a while now. That's that's
Yes,
crazy.
yes, you have. That is an incredible feat. Most people just leave me by now.
No, but let me let him know. If you guys have not seen Paul's video on Collectathons, very interesting. Something I actually haven't paid much attention to, and I think you did a really good job reminding people of what they actually were, and the fact that there really aren't many these days.
Yeah, it's really weird how there's like the Collectathon was a genre that was predominant in like the N64 slash PS1 era that
Yeah.
just sort of died off. Like it just doesn't exist anymore, except within certain franchises, but I can only say that loosely.
What franchises are you talking about?
I would be talking about franchises where like Sly Cooper or not Jack and the Daxter, but Ratchet and Clank.
Okay.
Those franchises, but I say that very loosely because those they hardly have any real collectathon staples within them.
Yeah, they've
They
sort of moved away from that, haven't they? Like they kept the platforming element, but they've sort of lost a lot of the elements that you talked about. It's. Do you think there's actually a future for collectathons in this modern gaming world?
Yes and no. There's a reason for this. First off, I think that the collectathon as a like genre just isn't as self-sufficient as people might think it might be, because as a collectathon platforming game, you need to be able to make a lot of things kind of work in conjunction with each other really well.
Right.
So like the music, the areas, and just overall like the level design has to fit in really well within each other along with the gameplay. And a lot that takes a lot of effort, and there's always constant changes to like the overworld hub world slash areas that you would go into because something didn't work out the way that they had originally planned it to. They needed an extra puzzle, something like that. So it's a very long and kind of like nitpicky process of being able to put things in and to take things out. And I think that also means that it's not very efficient to go out and make. So
That's
for that
interesting.
reason, I don't think it's like incredibly self-sufficient,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that it won't happen.
Well, here's the thing. Do you think a lot of it had to do with hardware limitations at the time?
Hardware limitations, I'm not entirely 100% sure what the N64 and or PS1 were capable of, though I think it wouldn't have much to do with hardware
Hmm.
limitation because with Banjo-Kazooie and with games like Banjo-Kazooie or let me think of another one, Spyro.
Yeah.
That moment when they just can't come to my head.
No, no.
It's really interesting because the way they did it was that not all the areas were always infinitely connected to each other, kind of like a game of GTA would be, where it's like open world and you could just explore any of it at any time. It had these doorways that loaded different areas at different times, so it kind of had this wiggle room where you can make a bunch of different areas. The only condition to that is it needed a loading screen. It
Hmm.
needed like a small intermission or load time in order to actually make it onto that, and which is why they were able to make so many big worlds, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah,
At
and
least
that's
I think that's how it works.
well, okay, here's a big question for you. Do you consider Mario 64 a collectathon?
Yes, I do consider Mario 64 a collectathon.
Okay. So it's not just a
I
3D platformer, it is a collectathon in your opinion.
mhm. There's a reason I think that the newer Mario games aren't collectathons, and a lot of it is because the games are very streamlined and
Hmm.
or linear, whereas something like Super Mario 64 isn't. An example, in fact, one of the examples that I used in my video, the Collect-a-thon, where I was comparing Super Mario Sunshine versus Banjo-Kazooie, because I didn't want
Hmm.
to pick another Mario game because that would be boring.
Yeah.
Um, in Banjo-Kazooie, you can pick about any collectible anywhere and just sort of go with that. There was no intended order for you to actually collect all of the collectibles unless there was maybe like a path of jiggies that started at the beginning that actually led, or not like jiggies, but the music notes that
Hmm.
actually led you to a jiggy. Okay, maybe that one was linear, but from there you could like go on and explore by yourself, and you didn't really have any type of limitation except for one or two instances where you needed an upgrade, but
Hmm.
that was very, very minimal
Yeah.
at the most. So it kind of gave you this mix and match pattern of, okay, well, you can play the game and you can do this, this, and this, or you can do this, this, and this, and still beat the game.
Hmm.
The game rewarded you for beating the game through basic completion by getting your sister back. But if you wanted to get the full experience,
Yep.
you collected everything to go to the rooftop and fight Gruntilda. And that's just how the game worked out within its own respective right. But
So yeah, and so in Mario 64, you would say that it's similar to that because you don't necessarily have that linear direction. Oh, this is the star you're getting. If you happen to find another star or want to get a different one, you can. It's really just more exploration of the level, right?
and I think that's a lot of what the collectathon is. Like it's not so much collecting things, but it's about exploration and finding things on your own.
Hmm.
And if anything, I kind of wish I had talked about this topic a little bit more in depth in my video, because I'm pretty sure I left it out at this point. But the collectathon was more about exploring and kind of giving this the player an innate sense of wonder
Hmm.
that they would go out and just without instruction look for the things that they don't even know where it could be, but they're going to go and they're going to darn well try and find them.
Yeah. Um, there was one thing I wanted to ask you about. As far as collectathons go, I don't think of any 2D ones that pop into my mind. I know like what was the Mighty Max game or the Home Alone game, or not Home Alone, Home
Home
Improvement game.
improvement.
Yeah, where you go and you pick the pieces of whatever it is and then put it together. You know, that kind of is like one, but not really because you don't have a hub world. You don't, it's missing a lot of elements. So I can't really think of any 2D collectathons. Do you think that collectathons are something that are necessarily 3D?
I think that the collectathon can strive. Oh, okay. So I think that necessarily a collectathon platformer is inherently 3D because of the way that the medium works, where it's like
Mm.
it's this sort of sense of exploration that you need to be able to get. So you want to get kind of have these vast areas that you want to explore and such. You can't get that with a side scroller like
Yeah,
Super Mario Brothers. You
yeah, that makes
just
sense.
can't do that. There's no exploration in Super Mario Brothers. Well, no exploration in Super Mario Brothers. There's always the secret pipes that you can find.
Yeah.
But it's not like in Banjo-Kazooie where there's a conglomerate, I guess. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Oh well. But there's like a mismatch of many different areas that you can go to in one place, and you can just sort of explore at your own leisure.
Right.
There's nothing like that. Though I don't think that it's impossible to have a collectathon in a 2D environment, such like an isometric game, kind of like one of the examples that was recently shown, no, not the Legend of Spyro, Spyro Season of Ice or Spyro Season of Flame. It was two games made for the Game Boy
Huh.
Advance, and playing those games, I realized that they can exist in a isometric kind of area. It's just very difficult to pull off
Yeah,
because,
I don't even know how they would do it, to be honest with you.
but that game had all the staples of a collectathon. It had the hub world, it had the multiple levels, it had progress through collection.
Hmm.
It was really, really good. Now, not to say that I beat the game. I was nowhere near it, and I don't think I have enough patience to do it because it's kind of boring, to be entirely honest with you. But it had the staples.
Now, I don't want to backtrack too much, but
Okay.
in talking about Super Mario 64, you did mention that you don't think the newer ones, for example, Galaxy or Galaxy 2, are collectathons. Even though you are collecting something, right? What is it about them that doesn't make them collectathons?
Okay. So, and yeah, I noticed this earlier. We kind of accidentally skipped that, and I wanted to go back to it at some point. But what I do not think about it is that, like, okay, so when I think of Banjo-Kazooie versus Super Mario Sunshine, you have these two games where collecting things is inherently a kind of concept for the game. That's how you progress the game, or at least it would seem that way.
Right.
In Super Mario Sunshine, that's not inherently true, because the game doesn't require you to collect a certain amount of a mart. I said a mart, didn't I? Amount. A certain amount of shine sprites in order to progress the game. Rather, it makes you play a select set of levels to progress the game.
I see what you're saying.
So where you might get, I think, what was it? You needed 7 stars in each world, and I think there were what, 7 worlds? I remember the
Yeah.
number being around like 60-ish
Yeah,
that I
I can't
actually.
remember the top of my head.
But you needed a decent amount of stars in order to actually go up and fight Bowser. But the thing with Super Mario Sunshine is that even if you get the required amount of shine sprites, that doesn't necessarily mean the doors to Bowser's castle is going to open. You have to actually go and do all the Shadow Mario missions, which is the 7th level of each world. So if you decide not to go and do the Shadow Mario mission on one world and go to another world, and collect another shine and hopefully get up there that way, it's never going to happen.
I see what you're saying. So when Sunshine came on the scene, they shifted it, focused more on level completion rather than on collection.
And
So
I think that's one of the reasons I stray from calling the newer Mario games or the Mario 3D platformers collectathons.
even Mario Galaxy.
Yes. Even Mario Galaxy. In fact, if anything, Mario Galaxy 2, its sequel is much more linear than the original.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
did notice they had like a map that showed you where you were in the game.
here's where you are, here's where you need to go. Go to
I mean, there's no way you could simplify it more than that. I mean, it was ridiculous. No, that is interesting to me because you can really see the progression. They shifted all the way from that initial collectathon feel from Mario 64 and moved slowly away from it, more and more pushing on the platformer side. It's very interesting. Do you think though? Okay, you mentioned in your video there is hope for the future with A Hat in Time.
uh,
Do you know
so-
of any collectathons that are coming out soon? Anything that holds hope for the collectathon in the near future?
besides A Hat in Time?
Yes.
That's a good question. I have been contacted by a few developers, and I have actually gotten a few comments as well, letting me know of other collectathon platformers that
wow.
were coming out. One of them was called Freeze Me. It is a collectathon platformer with the idea that as you're collecting things, you have like this camera and you can take pictures of like obstacles and such to freeze them in time for a short moment in order to get past them. And like the entire game revolves around that mechanic, but also the collectathon aspects.
Oh wow, that's
And I
actually
thought
really
that
interesting.
was, yeah, I thought it was a really cool concept. Granted, when the developer sent me the demo to the game, I couldn't run it, but
I
or
know
I
the
could run
feeling.
it, but it was at like 20 frames, and it was just a bad deal. I wanted to make a video on it, I really did, but I couldn't.
No, that's really cool because it's a mix of something you don't see too much, and a really cool, I guess, mechanic for the game. That's
Yeah, and it also one of the little nitpicks I might have had with the game was that it kind of made the game a little bit easier in terms of the platforming because um in some portions it was necessary to use the camera in order to be able to freeze platforms in order to be able to jump on them and get across, but sometimes
right.
it's just made the game way too easy. So I'm thinking that he should maybe make it a little bit more selective what can be frozen and what can't in order so that the difficulty still stays on a balanced level,
Yeah,
because at some points it just felt too easy.
yeah. That I will have to check that out. Actually, you said
Oh,
there's a demo out.
yeah, well, demo. That game is still in green light,
Okay.
and it needs to be green lighted. Um, I'll definitely link you to the developer
Yeah, let me
and
know.
their
I'll
Twitter.
probably post a link in this description then, because it's good to help out projects that are actually innovative. I guess is something the
I
word.
wouldn't, I wouldn't call going back to a dead genre innovative
Ah,
necessarily.
I wouldn't call it a dead genre. I mean, obviously people are still interested.
Well, yeah, there's still an interest in it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's very popular.
Oh yeah, that's true. You want it to be really popular. You throw in some Call of Duty and some My Little Pony in there, everyone will buy it. That's
I'd buy that, My Little Pony.
Yeah, see,
Like,
that's what you do. Well, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and close us off. Anything you want to say to the audience about collectathons before we go?
collectathon platformers are fun, and you should totally go check out A Hat in Time.
Shout out to A Hat in Time. Well, I just want to thank Paul for being here. Super positive. I will put a link to your channel in the description.
Feel free to subscribe and or laugh at my channel, one of the two.
For sure. Really cool content. That collectathon video really was very interesting to me. But I think one of the first videos I saw of yours was the was it Mario Sunshine?
It was probably Mario
Mario
Sunshine, yeah.
Sunshine, I think it was. Even from then, I thought he's pretty good. So definitely check him out, everybody. This is Frank Gamer. This was Voice Chat. A little more intelligent conversation, hopefully. If you're interested, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about collectathons in the comments below. Thanks for watching.